Okay, here we go. Episode 1. And today I couldn't think of a better person to kick this off with than my friend Helen Leland. Helen is the innovative mind behind blender bombs under the national brand, The Bomb Co. Helen's also built a successful influencer marketing business with well over 100,000 followers across her social platforms. And oh, by the way, she's also a new mom. And so she's learning to balance parenthood and running multiple businesses at the same time. And so you are in for a treat. Helen's going to take us on her entrepreneurial journey. She's going to share insights into building a successful brand and navigating the world of influencer marketing along the way. She's going to delve into its impact, into the impact of social media and the art of content creation and how she juggles the challenges of parenthood and work. So I hope you're ready for a healthy dose of inspiration and practical wisdom as Helen jumps into her secrets to success and growth in both business and life. Let's jump in. I am so excited to have this conversation today with a longtime friend. Helen, thank you for joining me.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we've known each other for a really long time, or at least, 5, 6 years-ish?
Honestly, I don't even remember. You were one of the first people I went to when I was like, I need help.
I appreciate that. And I think that I still don't, there's still a big bucket of I don't know what I don't know, but I've always had a passion to try and help people fall in a few less potholes than I did and trying to build a company. And, I still fall in them sometimes. It's just less frequently, I suppose. So I'm always happy to help and still happy to help, by the way. If there's ever anything I can do, don't
I'll
hesitate.
take you up on that.
For people who don't know you, and since this is a new podcast, for people who don't know you, why don't you just tell us, who you are and what you do, and maybe even weave in a little bit of your journey and where's it led?
Cool. Yeah, thank you. So I am 30 years old. I live in Charleston. I am the owner, the founder of a brand called The Bomb Co., which is a smoothie-based brand. Our core product is called the Blender Bomb, and that's kind of what we're known for. It's this little energy ball full of chia seed, hemp seed, flaxseed, walnuts, pecans, nuts, seed states, almond, honey, all these superfoods, and it simplifies your smoothie. So you just throw it in your smoothie with a cup of fruit, cup of veggies, some water, and blends it up. And then you have a superfood meal replacement smoothie. And so that's kind of the product that got us off the ground. But I do have a CEO who runs that business. Even though I work full-time for the business as well on the marketing side, I'm also a full-time influencer. And that's how I make money. I don't pull money from the Bomb Co. or from Blender Bombs. I just make money influencing. And in turn, it also helps, as whenever I grow my platform, since probably 60-70% of my content on my platform is about blender bombs. When I grow that platform, it grows blender bombs as well. So it's really like a two-way street. I don't plan to be an influencer forever, but for now it's doing its job and I enjoy it. And it's been really fun. It's been a fun space for me to learn. And back to what you said, weaving in a little bit of my journey. So I started Blender Bombs by accident in 2017. I was a personal trainer, and I noticed that a lot of my clients were frustrated that they weren't seeing the physical results that they wanted because they would work out, but they wouldn't change anything about their diet. And so I made them commit, if you're going to work out with me, you have to commit to drinking at least one smoothie a day was the rule. It will start there, replace one meal a day with a smoothie. And even then, as simple as that one change could be, a lot of them wouldn't commit to it because there's too many steps involved in making a smoothie in their mind. So I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to make it simple for you. And no excuse. Like I'm going to make it so bulletproof that you cannot give me an excuse that you're not keeping up with this routine. And so we developed the blender bombs in my kitchen so that smoothies were, it takes less than 5 minutes a day to make and clean up the smoothie, costs less than $5 a day, and you only have to do it 5 days a week. You don't have to do it on the weekends. So that product is really what kind of started my journey. I started posting about it on Instagram. This was before I was an influencer. I just had 1,500 followers, like friends. And I started posting this like screenshots of testimonials that people were texting me.
Yeah.
And they were like, I want to buy it. And so I opened the little free Shopify 25-day trial or whatever it was and started selling products and the business grew really quickly, but also really quickly I realized I can sell the hell out of anything, but I cannot organize the back end of the business. And like, that's where I needed help. And that's honestly why I came to you. I remember coming to you and being like, what is a margin? what is sell through? What is velocity? What are all these things? I remember in 2019, a website reached out or a magazine was like, can we feature your journey about entrepreneurship? And I had to look up what the word entrepreneur meant.
Oh my gosh.
Like, what is this?
Oh my gosh. So there were like 20 things that I would love to unpack here. There's no time to do all of them, but you said, the comment about like not knowing the lingo or not knowing sort of the, some of the business acumen or the things that are important to know in business, but you built something or you began to build something that other people resonated with and you didn't know any of the lingo. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is trying to get people to get their ideas into the world and not allow all the things they don't know to like prevent them from moving forward. We tend to have this like let perfection get in the way of good or like failure to launch or like analysis paralysis. And man, my first business meeting in this industry was with Publix, and I cold called them. I had no idea what any of the industry lingo was, and they gave me a meeting. And then I went into the meeting and I saved my presentation because, one, I'm embarrassed by it today, but I won business out of that meeting, and I think we overthink stuff, man. And if we've got a passion for something or we've got an idea, in my view, just get started. And the rest kind of, the rest will work itself out. I mean, if you're willing to work hard and, if you can get over sort of the fear in your mind, then I think the rest will work itself out. But I love that, your journey started in fitness and wanting to help people get fit. And, when I went paleo circa 2009, and I had started working out before that and probably for 6 or 8 months with some results, but not really what I was hoping for. And when I began to incorporate, just a reasonable diet plan, and not, I don't like the word diet, just a reasonable eating plan, like, let's just eat things that fuel your body, that make you feel good. Like, it was like when I combined that with exercise, it was immediate. Like, it was like body composition changed almost overnight. Like, it was crazy what the combination of the two could do. Why was it smoothies for you though? Like, what was it? Just because it was like a way to get this, like, all this nutrient density in like a simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a few things. So I had a big sweet tooth. I was obsessed with, the double stuffed, what's that cookie cake company? Great American Cookies.
Yeah.
They had like these 2 M&M cookies with like icing in the middle. And I would literally eat one a day.
Oh my gosh.
Because it was on my college meal plan. So I gained a lot of weight in college. And when I was trying to figure out how to lose it, I couldn't stick to any of the diets. I tried them all. And when you're in college and it's party here, going out here, alcohol here, unlimited meal plan, like whatever, go
Sure.
ham. It was really hard for me to stick to a diet. And then I started doing my own research, and I something clicked with me, and someone was like, when you crave sugar, you should eat sugar. Just eat it in its proper whole food form. So that would be fruit. And so I started giving my body more fruit. And then I wanted to add in, all the healthy stuff that comes with it. So I went to Whole Foods and I bought like $150 worth, probably like all the money I had in my bank account at the time, of all these nuts and seeds that Google told me was good. And I had the time back then to spend 15 minutes making a smoothie and opening up all the bags and measuring it out. But almost within a week of the only change being having my smoothie as my breakfast before I went to my internship, because this was senior year, I noticed my sugar cravings and like 99% dispersed. Like I didn't have my sugar cravings anymore, especially by adding the cacao powder in there. And so it was a domino effect for a whole other, then I got the confidence to start working out. I got the confidence to start eating healthier throughout the rest of my meals. Like I got the confidence to prioritize sleep. Like it was a domino effect. But you said something earlier and I wanted to speak on it too, and just add to what you said, because certain things resonate with other people. But the naivety around knowing that lingo and stuff like that. I was talking to a self-made billionaire one time, and he told me this, and I'll never forget it. He was like, stop trying to learn. Like, stop trying to read all these books. Stop trying to listen to all these podcasts. Stop trying to learn what you don't know, because the more you learn, the more you're not going to put something out there in the universe because you're scared you're going to fail.
I love that.
I was like, you're a self-made billionaire, so I trust you. So fuck my Audible account.
Blind enthusiasm, right? I mean, to some extent, like that's the kind of stuff that moves the world. And it takes, in my opinion, blind enthusiasm in the early stages, because all that, the more you start to know, like then you create all these barriers. So to his point, like the more you know, you start, I mean, the thing, like when I interact with people in the industry who have been in the industry for 20 years, there are so many things that come up in conversation where people say things like, well, you can't do that because whatever, or, that'll never work because, and look, that's not to take away from the wisdom that comes with a ton of experience. But I think what's missing in that is that the blind enthusiasm, like you don't need to know all this, like just go. And honestly, like every person I've ever spoken with about that first meeting, they're like, no one gets a meeting at Publix without a broker, and a broker who knows somebody who knows somebody. Like you're never going to get the meeting. And I got on a cold call, and then no brand with no distribution is ever going to start at Publix, And so like, if I knew all of those things, I would never made the phone call, but because I didn't, I made the phone call. And
that's what happened with us at Whole Foods. Like, I had emailed them so many times and never responded. And finally I just went on Instagram, made a 10-second video, and I was like, I'm pissed off that they're not responding to me. I've emailed them so many times. I don't understand why they won't respond. But if someone knows someone in corporate, let me know.
I love this.
And within an hour, I had an email from corporate being like, fly down and pitch to us. And then we launched nationally with them.
Wow.
But if I could do it again, I would do the whole like blind enthusiasm to start the company. And then once it was proven, then I would spend all my waking hours diving into the wisdom. So that because yes, not knowing much about the industry and not knowing much about business in general, like I was in fashion my whole life, but that is what, I didn't have any fear in starting the business, but I made an unlimited amount of mistakes because I knew nothing about business.
Yep.
So there's got to be a happy medium there.
Totally.
I was a little late to it.
Well, again, I think most entrepreneurs are, because most, again, great ideas start in this blind enthusiasm mode. And then you want to make sure you limit the mistakes once you have a minimum.
Once you realize you have something going.
Yeah, that's right. Let's limit that because those are very expensive. I could teach lessons on losing 7 figures if anyone ever wants to hear those.
And that's why we brought in a CEO with 25 years experience before we took on investor money. Because that, for the first 5 years, it was my money, my profits that I was testing and working on and gambling. But once we take on investors, you can't gamble with their money.
Totally. No. Yeah, that's right. Now you're a steward of other people's financial resources, and
Yup.
and you want to, you want to return them a, a good amount for their risk in you.
Mm-hmm.
What so did you always want to be an entrepreneur, or what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I didn't know what the word meant, but I was always just super creative, and still to this day, like super creative, and that's what has got me where I am today. And when I was in the position of operating the business, I didn't have room for creativity, because creativity, does require some space.
Yeah.
But I was always, when I was little, I was taking fabric swatches that had expired from my mom's showroom and like stapling them together and making purses and selling them for $1 in the hallway.
Oh yeah.
Or I was like, in charge of the homecoming parade at my college. Like I was always in charge of some things, like always kind of in leadership roles, but I was never organized ever.
So that's okay. Know thyself, right, is a really, really important. That's a really, really important. So, but it sounds like it was sort of ingrained in your DNA to be in a leadership role, or just to do
create
something and to create. Yeah. But let people who are really good at organizing, who love being organized, let them do that work.
I know.
And
I don't understand those people.
Yeah, you do your work. I'm somewhere in the
I'm
middle.
proud of them.
I'm somewhere in the middle of that. Like I ebb and flow between being really organized and then being an absolute like all over the place.
You seem pretty organized.
You talk to some of the people that work with me every day, and they might tell you different. I try to be.
You have an analytical mind, I would say.
I try to be. That's learned, by the way. That's learned from.
Oh, okay.
From
that's good to know.
From trying to understand things like gross margin and how it impacts your ability to scale a business.
Like the whole beginning of our conversation, when you're talking about numbers, in my head, I'm like, what did Bo tell me that we were doing? What did Bo tell me? Bo's our CEO. Like, what did Bo say that we grew this year?
Yeah. Oh man, look, if you've got someone that you trust in that role, and that allows you the freedom to go do the things that light you up, then you are absolutely in the right place. You mentioned earning an income through your influencing. I'm sure look, I was off social media for 3 years completely. And I got back on. And when I got back on, I was, started to produce a little bit of content and test some things out. And my feed then was instantly filled with people trying to sell me services to grow my Instagram following. Right? Everyone now, like the people who have the most reach on Instagram are the people trying to tell you how to get more reach. Yeah. And so I was like, man, what's happened in the last few years since I've been gone? But I'm sure there are people out there that would love to know a little bit about the actual journey from the trenches of like, how did you, what does some of that journey look like for you in building a following, nurturing a community around the work that you do? And can you attribute any of what can you attribute the success in building a successful influencer platform to? Can you pinpoint any principles or anything in that journey? Yeah, I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go into that real quick before I go into that. Just fun facts that I think you would be interested to know. But being in like the influencer world, I'm able to find out, what some other influencers, what their businesses do when they launch a business. Because the whole goal of being an influencer, like, yes, you can sell other companies' products all you want, but at the end of the day, the goal is to like create your own brand and sell your own products, right? Or that's at least my goal, and some other people's goals too, if they have that drive within them. But I have 2 friends who are influencers. One has 1 million followers, and she launched a clothing brand, and within the first 3 minutes of launching, she did 3 million in sales in the first 3 minutes.
Whoa.
And now like her annual revenue is 40 million just off of having 1 million followers.
Wow.
And I have another friend who has she's a mom, has 4 kids, and she has 160,000 followers, and she's in the CPG space and like a supplement space. And
Yeah.
she launched her brand last year, and her first year she did, 20 million just from having that amount of following. So a lot of
Wow.
people can make fun of influencers, but they have no clue what type of power that influencer has
Oh, it's
if they can launch a
extraordinary.
brand correctly.
It's extraordinary from what I can tell. And I've watched this evolve too as a person who's been building a brand for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched this evolve, and I've seen influencers be kingmakers for
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
for different brands. And when I look at the influence of TikTok and in my own household and the things that show up at my doorstep because an influencer said it was good or that it was life-changing or whatever, it's extraordinary. I mean, I don't even want to know the
Yeah.
numbers. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
know, but it's, I mean, look, the best example, I mean, we could use 1,000 examples, but the one that always comes to mind for me is Stanley. And
Oh my God.
I mean, Stanley made thermoses, and like Stanley sold their stuff to like truck drivers and, outdoorsmen. They were known for being like rugged, and, this was like a blue collar worker's thermos.
Yeah.
And
It's
suddenly,
crazy.
suddenly every suburban mom in America and their daughters all have to have this insulated
That
cup.
was like,
It's insanity. And it was
yeah,
it was a social media influencer campaign.
for like 3 months there, that was my number one selling product too, just off my, like to know page.
Insane.
I know. But so the behind the scenes of it was I got in the influencer space in 2017 when organic growth was pretty easy, just kind of like how
Yeah.
TikTok was 2 years ago.
Yep.
So I did build, I think I got up to like 30,000 followers just that first year, consistent posting. And I think what will be most valuable for people to know is how I kind of got out of the plateau and how I started growing again. I read this book called Influence, and it was really good. And the moral of the story is don't put out content unless it's shareable. Don't even waste your time putting out anything out there unless someone's going to save it or they're going to share it with someone else. And
Wait, stop. Say it again, because this is a golden nugget that I think people should really latch on to. So in today's social media environment, for people who want to build a following, build a community, be an influencer or have influence, don't waste your time putting out any content that isn't shareable or something that someone would save to reference back to later. Did I hear you correctly?
Yep, that's it. So, because like time, especially now in the video age, it takes a lot of time to put out content. It takes a lot of time to film it. It takes a lot of time to edit it, post it, make sure your captions good, do the hashtags. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And you can waste your time, posting content all day. But if it's not something that can be growing your platform, what's the point? Why waste your time? So I started really changing to that. And I also started posting more like emotional videos because those tend to get shared more, especially like in the mom space that I'm in now. And that has really grown my following lately. So I also niche down. Another thing the book Influence tells you to do. I've got my 3 niches. I've got my smoothies, I've got my mom, and I've got my like mom life, and I've got 80/20, just whole food, plant based in general. So I stick to those 3 niches. I used to be all over the place because that's how my brain works, and I'm like, why wouldn't someone want to know what the inside of my brain looks like? And they didn't want to know, I guess. So I only give them a piece of it.
We don't want to know what the inside of every person's brain looks like all the time. But I think that's really like you just gave some really golden nuggets about this, in terms of, what types of content to put out, focusing on niching down. The book is Influence. Do you know the author?
I don't.
Okay, that's all right. We'll figure it out.
It's blue background. Yeah.
We'll figure it out. I'll put it in the show notes too. And that way people can reference it. So this is a good transition point. So as you changed or pivoted a little bit on your strategy as gaining followers or organic reach became harder and harder. Did when was that? Was that so you started in 2017 when the organic reach was still there?
Yeah.
When would you say you pivoted on like getting really clear about your niche? And
So if you look at the history of the company's sales, it is perfectly in line with like my social media growth too, which is so crazy. But, for the beginning, the first 2 years when my following was steady growing, the business was super growing. And then when I went through that breakup and I had to completely reorganize the business, you can see a decline because I stopped posting on social media. I was like, am I grieving girl era? And then when I got out of that and I hired a CEO and I was able to go back to content creating, see the business shut up again. And so when I was able to outsource, a creative mind, like a true content creator is not going to be able to be the CEO of their content creation business either, because there's a creative and then there's an analytical operational mind. And when you're stuck doing both, it's really hard to put the type of content out there that's true. So even if you're just an influencer, you need someone helping you on the operational side of the influencer business. But like being an influencer and being a business owner, I needed someone to run the day-to-day of the business so that I could focus on growing the business.
Yeah. When was that? Like, when do you think that, how many followers were you at, or sort of what stage was your business in when you felt like it was time? Because, right, if I'm thinking about
like
the people,
70,000.
Okay. I'm thinking about people who are just getting started who have 5,000 followers or 500 followers, and they say, gosh, now I got to think about bringing in an operator or a more creative mind. I think it's important, right? Probably to get it right, get your message right, and like get your niches identified and start to get into a flow of content creation, start to get some momentum, and then think about, okay, what other skills and what other people do I need to include in my circle that can complement the things that I'm good at, so that I don't have to spend a lot of time on things that I'm not good at. Is that right?
And I will say I've tried outsourcing influencer stuff for so many years, and the only time it's ever worked has been when it's been someone in person with me editing the videos. Like if I can get someone editing the videos and helping with the DMs, then it has allowed me to create the content that actually goes viral, that grows.
How do you find that person? Like what do you do to find them?
This is fun. I put them through the ringer. I would post on my Instagram story, or like post on a Facebook page, or post on, if there's a university near you, their college groups, sorority groups, whatever it is. Just like a little description of the job, say that it's paid. And if people are interested, to email their resume to your email. And then this is the key. And every time I haven't done it this way, the hire has been bad, because people like social media, people want to be a part of that world, especially certain people who may not have work ethic, but they just like the glamour that they think it is, but it is true, is work. And so I would highly recommend this to anyone. This is also a golden nugget, but put applicants through a project-based hiring process. And so you give them 1, 2, 3 things that are relative to your business. So give them a screenshot of a couple DMs and say, hey, can you draft a response for this? Like, how would you respond to this? That gauges if they can speak the same as you, like how their mind thinks, are they going above and beyond in the responses? Number 2 is make a month-long content calendar for me. Like, what are my 3 niches and what would you have me post for the month? And then number 3 is, film a chaotic video of whatever your content is. For you, if it's podcasting, you would say, like, here's a podcast, create 3 to 4 clips out of this that we can use for short viral videos. Put them through that, and then you can pick your winner there.
This is like one of those things that people have, I've heard I've heard the nugget of advice to give people project-based application processes, right? Let's see how they actually work, because we take these huge risks when we hire people. And, like the term hire slow, fire fast, right? It's like a industry jargon and lingo that people use, but it's true. I think that, we should take our time. And to your point, that's really powerful. If you can get people to do each of those, especially people who, you're hiring to sort of work creatively, you need to see their creative performance. And I love the way that you broke that down. It's very digestible. And I'm sure that there are going to be lots of people that take that advice and run with it.
And you can see who is who's good or not. The ones I always look for the people who go above and beyond. Like the way that they organize the content in a Google Drive says a lot about them.
God, man,
how they name the files and the folders says a lot about them. So that's the type of stuff I look for. Not even necessarily the content, but the organization behind it.
How often do you have a cadence of your social media posts, and do you have a goal for on your content calendar now for how many posts go out a day or a week? Like, do you have sort of a formula for that?
We got 12 months planned out in advance, baby.
Unbelievable.
It's like a machine. And you know what the best part is? Because I hired someone to help me with all that stuff, all I have to do is show up on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 4 hours and film.
Man, that's right. That is how you batch your time, and then you let somebody else edit it, and then rock and roll. You plan out
the time I can be on Blender Bombs.
You plan out 12 months in advance.
I mean, the subject matter for 12 months.
Yeah.
And then the actual content, a lot of it depends on like what's trending and stuff. And what the brand deals are going on. But my time each week devoted to it is 8 hours a week, 8 to 10.
And that pays the bills. And or allows you to not have to...
pays such great bills. Like I don't pull money from Blender Bombs because I don't have to, and I don't want to. Like I'm trying to use that money to grow.
So you're basically, if I'm hearing you correctly, because again, it seems like a dream, right? But it's obviously full of hard work. So people need to know that, like, today it is a well-oiled machine, but you've put in the time, you've put in years of effort, you've gone through, right? So, but today the outcome of that is, and you're 30 years old, the outcome of that is you are building a business, a health and wellness business, right? A food business that you don't have to take an income from. So you can hire somebody really good at running a business.
That's why.
And you don't have to take an income from, because you have this influencer platform that can pay your bills, but then simultaneously helps you build that business.
And that's kind of like, so it sounds really cool. I didn't make a penny off influencing for the first 5 years, by the way. It wasn't until it wasn't until I was backed in a corner and I had to hire, a CEO, and I had to figure out a way to make money that I started monetizing the influencer business, because for so long I didn't have the time to put an effort into my personal brand. Why would I do that when I have an actual business to run? Now I understand how important it is to do both. And the CEO, like, honestly, he wants me to keep growing the influencer business because we've seen what influencers can do for businesses.
Yeah.
And the way that we have it streamlined, I like the way you broke it down, because that is exactly what we're doing. And it's kind of what we have going on with Blender Bombs with the franchise side of things too. So, and before I start talking about that, I will say the money to be made in influencing is so real. And I'm not even doing like to know it or like affiliate links or Amazon, like those. I don't even do those. And I still, make more than my husband, who's a medical device. And so that right there is, so I'm very proud of myself, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, of course.
I would be dying if I didn't have a CEO for Blender Bomb. So I'm happy to give up my salary there for someone else.
Yeah. What? You also became, so you were backed into a corner, right? That's what you said. And then you're also a new mom, right? In the middle of all this. So,
oh my God.
How in the hell do you, you've got it down to a well-oiled machine, but do you have any tips for how, look, we all get in the suck of parenthood sometimes, but how do you manage it all? How do you juggle all those
I actually think
balls?
I think becoming a mom really helped my social media, because I think people trust me more. I think I get her involved in the content. And I get my husband involved in the content too, because like it would be a little boring seeing me all the time. But and there's a lot of parents who have conflicting views on that, letting your child be on social media or not. But we feel super safe where we are. I feel super safe with the school. As she gets older, I don't know if that'll change. It could change, but like right now, when we just spend so much time with her, I'm not too worried about it. Yeah. But yeah, I think as you probably know, when you're backed into a corner and you're forced to figure it out, you figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard someone say, gosh, man, I can't give the quote exactly because I don't know it, and I can't even attribute it to the right author. So
Show notes.
yeah, let's put it in the show notes. But I heard someone say, like, you haven't really done anything yet until you've been up in the middle of the night with your hands in your hair and you have absolutely no answers. And like, that's when like your journey begins. And
yeah.
and it's like, isn't it interesting how those really hard moments and the moments where you're backed into a corner, or you feel maybe even at your lowest, or you can't see the path forward at all. Isn't it funny how some of the most beautiful outcomes occur
literally
from those dark moments?
Yeah, there's always beauty past the pain. And I look so forward to those challenges. I look so forward to it because there's not been one time when something bad happened that it didn't turn out to be for the best. And I know Google did this study. They interviewed, I think, 1,000 of their employees. And they said, if you can think of the most miserable, hardest time you've ever had in your life, think about how much you've grown from it and what you learned from it. If you could go back and take away that time and also take away what you've learned and how you grew, would you take it away? And 99% of them said no. It's like they would go through it again.
Wow.
Just because of how you turn out on the other side.
Man, it's a really, really powerful concept if we can internalize it, because, we just have to know this too shall pass. And sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you can't see the path forward. But I think if you just, keep taking steps and having faith that the staircase is in front of you, all right, one step in front of the other, like, to your point, you won't regret the hardship that it took to get to the other side of something really beautiful.
Yeah, because otherwise life is boring.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Okay. Well, I have 1,000 more questions for you, but I'm just going to narrow it down to 2 since we're up on time. But, I want to ask you a question about comparison, because I think one of the things that happens as people are building companies and businesses, or becoming new parents, or becoming a social media influencer, right? I think the common thread there is there's probably a really big chance that you end up at some point comparing yourself to other people, other moms. Oh, they seem like they have it all together, or they do this better, or they do that, or other social media influencers that have bigger followings, or are making more money, or whatever it might be, or other people in business who seem like they're 5 years ahead of you. How do you deal with that? And does that come up for you at all?
Yes, I have a little quote about that though. Let me see it.
Helen, you are full of golden nuggets.
I love quotes. It was, hold on. And wait, I think I recorded it for a little clip and now I'm forgetting it. It's like anyway, we'll get to that later. But
okay.
Yeah, I definitely compare myself and it's not good. I definitely was in the beginning, like, am I growing as quickly, etc. But kind of the way that I reframed it, and this isn't the good answer. I want to find the quote because that's the good answer. But the way that I reframed it was just long-term thinking. And there's a lot of companies who have different journeys. I would always be like, well, RX bar freaking sold for $600,000 or sold, $600,000 after 2 years. Why am I not doing that?
Yeah.
I was frustrated,
yeah.
but it forced me to reframe the way that I was thinking. And now because I reframed, now I'm even happier with the business model that we have going on. Like, I think our business model is better. It might not be as quick, but I think long-term it will be better, and it's part of my journey. But I do go through the comparison trap too.
How do you reframe your mind? How do you get yourself back in check, right? Because we all do, I think. And that's why I brought it up, because you sort of have the trifecta here of, parenthood, running a business, having a social media platform. Like, that's a pretty powerful trifecta that it has a really high potential for you to run into this pretty frequently. How do you check yourself?
I think it's like you just have to reframe everything. You have to reframe everything because, your brain is so powerful, and what you think about yourself and what you say to yourself is going to have an effect on your vibe and your energy and like what you're putting out there, the way you're communicating with your team, the way that you're communicating on the screen for social media, etc. And I think reframing also forces you to think outside of the box, but it also forces you to think about what went wrong, if something really is wrong, or maybe something's not even wrong. And so again, it's giving yourself the space to think without looking at your phone, without talking to someone else, like have a conversation with yourself for like 30 minutes and let your brain spiral and think about all the things that have happened in your life. And it's the same stuff that happens when people journal, but I don't necessarily like journaling. I like thinking
Okay.
because my handwriting sucks.
Okay.
But if journaling is your thing, go for it. And I think you really just sit there and you let your mind do the reframing for you.
Gotcha. What do you, are you reading anything right now? You stopped reading books after the billionaire told you to stop, but are you reading anything? Are you reading anything right now?
Yeah. So there's 2 books that I'm reading, and this was super weird, but for the longest time I was only reading like business books, but over the holidays I started reading like romance novels. And so I read 3 romance novels in a 3-week period. And I'm also reading the book called The Exit Strategy.
Ah, love it. I try to incorporate, fiction into my world more these days. I've been trying to, because I have such a propensity to read, nonfiction, business or psychology types of books. I'm so fascinated by those topics, but
yeah,
I think it feeds a different part of your brain to maybe not make everything that you read.
I agree. And it helps you be creative.
Yeah.
When I read fiction books, that's when I get the most viral content ideas.
Ooh, there's a pro tip. Read some fiction.
No, seriously, it works like clockwork. I'm going to find, okay, I think I found the quote. Have you ever read Alex Hormozy's books, the $100 million offers?
I actually just got it in the mail. I had never read it, and
really?
Someone suggested that I do, and so I was like, all right, I'll get it. And so I literally just got it in the mail. So I haven't opened it yet, but that I intend to start cranking through it here in the next couple of weeks.
So I was listening to his podcast, and it kind of inspired this text. So this is something that I wrote for social media for a quick little video to film, but it took me an hour to really think through it. And so it's, anxiety comes from several options, but a lack of priorities, which is why it feels like paralysis. You solve anxiety with decision. Fear comes from anticipation of danger, which is why it feels like vulnerability, and you solve fear with preparation. Anger comes from a threat to your values or your goals, which is why it feels like frustration, and you solve anger with communication. And jealousy, like we were just talking about, jealousy comes from a sense of inadequacy, which is why it feels like resentment, and you solve jealousy with self-compassion. So again, it's you have to let your brain do the rewiring and the reframing about why is something taking longer, why is something taking slower, what's it stem from?
It's so powerful. I struggled. I've written about this before, but I feel like I struggled with imposter syndrome in business for a long time. And, even when people would come to me for advice and I would know answers or I would know things to tell them, I still always felt sort of inadequate. Well, God, do I know anything at all? And when I was sort of debating on sort of re-entering the world of social media and content creation and trying to tell my story better, because, I've always wanted to build a company without my personal voice sort of, being in the front of it. And I don't
be nice.
Well, I don't know that I did myself any favors, because I think people want to know the stories, and I think people want to know the connection. I think the next generation consumer, I think, wants a deeper connection to a brand, and they want to consume products and content from people they trust and they like, and that align with their values and all of those things. And so,
I sort of kicked myself out of the nest. And I remember talking to someone about like, God, okay, so if I'm going to go on social media or if I'm going to start a podcast, like there's a million podcasts and there's a million people that might give similar advice on social media than what I might give. And they can do it way better than me. Like, what in the heck can I possibly bring? And someone really like got me out of my own head there. And they said, yeah, but it's not in your voice. And it's not your journey. And it's different because it's coming from you. And the way you will share
100%.
your story is unique. And that was what clicked for me. That was sort of the moment where I got over myself and got over the imposter syndrome. And it was like, you know what, you're right. Because I'm building a brand that would be adjacent to an RX bar, to your point, who sold for $600 million after a few years in business. And those are so rare, by the way. And that's their journey. And it's not mine. And
Good for them.
and mine's longer. And mine's longer probably for a reason.
And lesser.
Yeah, because there's a lot more people and I think that's hard to relate to, right? I think that milestone, that goal of like, oh, I'm going to go start something on my kitchen counter and then I'm going to sell it to Kellogg's for $600 million 4 years later. Like, no one can wrap their head around that. But I can wrap my head around like, hey, I'm going to go build a platform, speak in my own voice, inspire some people to follow their passion. And, if I grow a community of 50,000 or 100,000 people across social media and we're engaged and we're helping sort of elevate each other, then we've done some pretty amazing things. So I think
even
you're right.
1,000 people.
Yeah.
Think about how many bodies 1,000 would be in a gymnasium. That would give you stage fright.
Yeah, think about that. I think we again, this is where the comparison trap comes in, because you see people with 10, 50, 100, a million, and it's like, oh, I'll never get there, or I'm not as good as them, or any of those things. But you're right. Like, put 1,000 people in a gymnasium, and that's a lot of people.
Panic attack. Yeah, it's a lot.
Oh man, Helen, this has been fun. Before we jump, will you just give us the high level pitch on the Bombco, what you're up to, what's next for that business, where people can learn more about it, how people can follow you and your journey. Give us the high level of all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bombco. So we just did a rebrand. It was called Blender Bombs, but we changed to the Bombco because part of our business model is growing the franchises. So I geek out on this, but as you know, growing a CPG product, and if you're going to go into retail, you're going to be constantly raising money.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to become profitable if you want to scale in retail. And so right now we're in, I think, 85% of the Whole Foods. We're on Amazon. We do most of our sales through our, subscription model on our website. And then we are in I think 1,200 Walmarts, but I don't know if we're going to stay in 1,200 Walmarts. That might not be part of our strategy long term. We'll see. But what we learned from that is it's really hard when someone goes into Whole Foods and they want to learn how to make a smoothie. No one's going to teach them how to make a smoothie. Not the person working at the supplement counter, not the cashier. It's really hard to convert someone to buy your product when they go into a Whole Foods or Publix or whatever.
Yeah.
The first time I ever met my now husband, we went on a date. And I told him what I did. He was like, I literally just picked those up at Costco yesterday, but I didn't buy it because I didn't understand what it was. And I was like, well, shit. That's the problem that we run into is people don't know how to use it. So we built a smoothie bar test kitchen in Charleston, to see how it could work in converting customers. And it did very well, top line revenue, very well. And we got a lot of new customers from it. It's a place where if someone walks into a smoothie bar, the chances of converting them into buying your product or, making smoothies at home is going to be way higher than someone walking into Whole Foods, especially when it's a small space. The staff has been trained on how to, teach you about smoothies in an empathetic way, like what are your health goals, et cetera.
Yeah.
And, once you get, not only does every smoothie in the smoothie bar use a blender bomb, but you can buy the retail products there. And so we, as the franchisor, we don't really care about the 6%, residual income that we get. we can put that back into like growing the franchise model. We care about selling, being a wholesale account. Like we are selling the blender bombs to each smoothie bar. You're putting a blender bomb in each smoothie. We're going to get customers that way. And so it makes it really profitable for the franchisee and for us to scale that model long term. And if we have, 100, 150,000, 150 franchises open in the next 5 to 10 years, we know exactly how much money is coming in our pocket. We know what our profit's going to be. Supply chain is really easy to forecast. We know it's going to be really beneficial for our franchisees as well. If we're not scaling super hard in retail, there's not a lot of competition. There's no waste because the supply chain is there. And that's really the business model that we're kind of working on now, or me and the director of franchise, whereas Bo, the CEO, he's still doing, all the e-commerce and the retail and like Whole Foods and maybe a few other co-ops. But that's kind of where we think things are going.
Yeah.
We are launching a protein powder in 2 weeks. And then we're going to launch a few more limited time offers and really start building our affiliate program this year. But we're going to do one more capital raise. So we did, I don't even know this. Did you see our capital raise that we did?
I didn't. I missed it.
You're going to die. You're going to die. So we did crowdfunding.
I love that.
Just from my Instagram account. And we raised $3 million.
Get out of here. So,
I swear.
So you leveraged your social media influence to also raise $3 million to grow your business.
Yeah. We raised $3 million in like 3 months.
Get out of here.
Just from Instagram.
Good grief. Congratulations.
And not even on top of that, everyone who was a subscriber, everyone who invested, we have 1,200 people invest. They got a free year-long subscription. So then we increased our subscribers and 99% of them renewed this year.
I'll bring you back and I want to talk about retention marketing and talk about how to keep all those subscribers on board, because that's an entire conversation in itself. And maybe even a conversation we might want to have a conversation about fundraising. Everyone,
I would love to.
That might be another really good one as a part 2 to this. We should do a part 2 on fundraising.
Yeah.
Because that's a topic that, I think I've raised north of $25 million in my journey, and that is not a fun or easy thing to do. And I think most people building businesses have to figure out ways to fund it. And so, the crowdfunding way is a great way to own your own destiny without being at the whims of, sharky venture capital investors or private equity investors. Not that they're all sharky, but, you just sort of can own your own destiny a little bit better. What's the website? Where can people go subscribe and buy and try and all of that?
Yeah, thebombco.com.
Okay.
And then that's our Instagram handle. And then my Instagram handle is just Helen Leland. Helen Leland.
At Helen Leland at the Bombco. And then, I'm sure that there's a store locator on your site too. If they don't want to buy it online, they can find it in a store near them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to Whole Foods.
I can attest that it's absolutely delicious. And have been a big fan of the product itself for a very long time, and have been a big fan of what you've been building for a long time. So I'm really proud of you. I'm just ecstatic for what you've been able to do and really build on your own shoulders. I mean, congratulations.
My shoulders hurt.
You're on pace to retire early if that is what you want to do. I
keep saying that, but again, back to the comparison trap. I always thought I'd retire at 32, but now it's looking like 42.
Oh my gosh.
I was wrong.
I love it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing so many valuable tips. I think the people who listen to this are going to get so much out of this. It's been such a rich conversation, and I'm so grateful that you had it with me today.
Me too. And stay tuned, guys, because we are going to launch one more crowdfund probably in April. So we'll post about it on our platforms. But it'll be hopefully our last fundraise.
And share it.
They always say.
Share it with me. We'll share it out through our channels as well.
Okay.
And heck, maybe I'll find a way to get involved. That sounds fun.
Do it. Yes.
Cool. Helen, thank you so much.